Very few celebrities have become as perplexing as this person here named Ezra Miller. If you ask your mother or something who Ezra Miller is, she may say, I have no idea. If you ask fans of the DCEU, their answer is Miller is the Flash. Well, one of them. But if you ask the numerous news outlets recently, Miller is a deeply troubled person with some very disturbing accusations being made. As we await the fate of the long-in-development Flash movie, it's time we find out just what the happened to Ezra Miller. The actor, not the 1800s Wisconsin State Senator, in case you were wondering. But yeah, seriously, WTF, we need to talk about Ezra.
And what are all these people watching? Huh? People like me.
When I first saw this actor up on the screen, I was absolutely mesmerized by the eyes. Oh my god. So much could be said with just a look from Ezra. The eyes of Ezra Miller always haunted me. And I always thought, it's because he's a good actor, right? No, maybe there's no acting going on at all, which isn't a good thing. And I was always impressed at Ezra's ability to spit out some fast, witty dialogue. Even if that dialogue is horrible, Ezra still did something fun with it. So I was one of the many people that thought Ezra was destined for great things. He's gonna take over Hollywood, already in major franchises like Harry Potter and Justice League. And yeah, Ezra was always a little eccentric, but we just thought it was like some fun Hollywood, look at me, flamboyant, flashy stuff, you know. On the surface, it may have seemed harmless, but looking back, there were so many red flags, oh my god. But we didn't see it. We were all blinded by the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. And we didn't see that something troubling was going on here. Allegedly, right? Allegedly. I have to say that, right? Yeah, researching and writing and reading and thinking about this one, it made us all dizzy and confused. So I apologize if that happens to you, and I think the only cure is to like, share, and subscribe, so go ahead and do that. But to truly understand what the happened to Ezra Miller, we must begin at the beginning of the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, 1992, New Jersey. By the age of 16, Miller would drop out of school to star in the film After School in 2008. The film would be an early showcase for Miller's attraction to more eccentric characters and dark plots. We could tell right away that this actor was something special. In these early days, Miller's resume would be built with roles in films such as City Island in 2009, Beware the Gonzo in 2010, a film called Every Day, also in 2010, Another Happy Day in 2011, as well as roles on TV shows Californication, Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and Royal Pains. But it would be Ezra's work in director Lynn Ramsey's controversial film, We Need to Talk About Kevin. And yeah, we need to talk about this film. It would bring Miller's name much respect. Absolute perfect casting, for the best and the worst reasons. In the film, Miller plays Kevin, who commits a horrific school shooting, but with bows and arrows. Yeah, like I said, Ezra is a little too good at playing a disturbed young person. Miller would receive several major award nominations, including Best Supporting Actor for the British Independent Film Awards and Best Young Performer for the Critics' Choice Awards. The film was very difficult to watch back when it was made, back when Ezra was just an innocent little child in our eyes. But sadly, as the years have gone on, We Need to Talk About Kevin has only gained in relevance. Like I said, you can feel the intense energy coming out of Ezra's eyes. It's terrifying. No actor is that good.
You don't think they would have changed the channel by now if all I did was get an A in geometry?
Miller would follow up that award-nominated performance with another memorable turn on the big screen with Perks of Being a Wallflower. Again, racking up several nominations, including ones from the Teen Choice Awards and the MTV Movie Awards. While filming Perks of Being a Wallflower, Miller would have the first of many run-ins with the law, as Ezra would be pulled over for driving with a broken taillight, and the officer would end up finding 20 grams worth of marijuana in the car. Charges were ultimately dropped, with Miller having to pay a fine, $600, for disorderly conduct. But this seems like nothing compared to what's to come, which we'll get to.
Son of a bitch!
After turns in something called Madame Bovary in 2014, and the Sundance Film Festival award-winning film The Stanford Prison Experiment, which critics called chilling with excellent performances. It's a wonderful ensemble cast of young actors. Miller would also appear in the massively successful Amy Schumer film Trainwreck, playing an eccentric, over-sexualized young person. Oh my god, how did Ezra get into character for this one?
Shit.
Yeah, shit.
Then, of course, when you are a master at playing eccentric characters in mostly indie films, what's your next career move? Well, you sign up to play the Flash, in what was expected to be the launch point of a massive interconnected extended universe in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016. Yeah, I almost forgot the Flash was in that one. Because the performance is small in the film, it's basically just it's a cameo. But it is the beginning of a much larger screen presence for Miller, as Miller would go on to cameo again in Suicide Squad. Not the Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad. Before starring in Justice League, where Miller would court controversy promoting the film at Comic-Con when discussing why the Flash would have trouble getting drunk, and a fan asked to smell Ezra's breath. So Ezra would kiss the fan on the mouth without consent, and this was a very early indicator that Miller is the type of person that just kinda does whatever Ezra wants, without thinking about it. No consequences, which is the perfect type of personality to have for a famous, rich movie star. It's like the perfect storm of horribleness, and horribleness happened. Speaking of horribleness, Justice League was deemed a disaster, but because of an internet campaign that may or may not have been backed by bots, but who cares, Warner Brothers was inspired to pump an additional $70 million into 2021's far superior Zack Snyder's Justice League, with many people saying that Miller's Flash character was the standout for both the humor and because most of the best scenes featured the Flash, especially that Speed Force stuff. Flash would make a cameo in the CW's Arrow, as well as the hilarious HBO Max series Peacemaker.
Fuck you, Barry.
With most of the legwork done to establish the Flash on the big screen, you would expect the solo project to come together fairly quickly. However, with a bit of irony, the making of a solo Flash film has been quite slow. Filmmakers such as Philip Lord and Christopher Miller, Robert Zemeckis, Matthew Vaughn, Jordan Peele, Sam Raimi, Ben Affleck, and many more have all been approached to direct a solo Flash film. But for some reason or another, they all refused. Before Warner Brothers would hire comedic filmmakers John Francis Daley and Johnathan Goldstein to work on the film. However, Miller would ultimately try to rewrite the script, not liking the more lighthearted approach to the material, at which Daley and Goldstein would leave the project, with Warner Brothers hiring Birds of Prey writer Christina Hodson to write a new script based off of story ideas by Daley and Goldstein. They finally got a script that they kind of liked in place, based in part on the Flashpoint storyline from the comics, and the studio would go on to hire the director of It, with the Flash movie beginning to shoot late April 2021. With studios figuring out how to release films during the government-ordered lockdown, the release date of The Flash seemed to bounce all over the place, finally settling on June 23rd, 2023. With comic book fandom eagerly anticipating the film, if for nothing but the return of Michael Keaton's Batman. Yeah, who cares about Ezra Miller now? Michael Keaton, y'all.
Holy
But then, the disturbing details about Miller came out. These allegations, of which we will get to momentarily, were serious enough that the studio held an emergency meeting to discuss what to do. I know I keep telling this joke, but it keeps working. They were like, we need to talk about Ezra. Fans were very vocal about wanting Warner to recast the film with the Flash from the CW. It's kind of perfect. You guys already have a Flash. However, those Warner brothers said that that would be impossible as Ezra Miller is in nearly every frame of the movie, because Ezra is the Flash and the movie's called The Flash. The studio has remained fairly tight-lipped on the matter, simply saying that they are committed to sticking to their theatrical release on June 23, 2023, but have absolutely no plans to work with Miller on any future projects. I don't know, isn't there like deep fake technology now? Can't you just put the CW guy's face on Ezra? Don't we have that technology? Can't this all be fixed with an app? Yeah, when The Flash comes out, this will be a true test of, I guess, our morals and our principles. Do we watch a film starring a person who is currently doing this kind of stuff, allegedly? Or do we look at The Flash and see the thousands of other people's work that went into making this, and not just focus on f***ing Ezra?
Are you in?
However, recently at Comic-Con, it was obvious that Warner Brothers still had no idea what to do about this film, as their Flash was suspiciously missing, and they have to deal with Amber Heard in Aquaman 2. In the new Shazam trailer, they mention the Flash, but you do not see Ezra's face, which is very telling. But yeah, so back to 2016. Ezra Miller would join the Harry Potter franchise with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Miller would return for the film's 2 sequels, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. I'm sorry, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but Ezra Miller certainly is. And I don't just mean fan, I mean like crazy fanatic. I've personally seen Ezra Miller at CinemaCon just like spit out Harry Potter facts and Harry Potter trivia. Like seriously, I've never seen anyone know so much about Harry Potter. And maybe it's because I don't know anything about Harry Potter. However, the future of this Harry Potter spin-off franchise is up in the air.
The little one. Where'd she go?
By the year 2018, Miller was getting more of a reputation of being eccentric off-screen. Ezra would always show up on the red carpet dressed, interestingly, always pushing the boundaries of fashion and stuff like that, and was quite celebrated for it, actually.
You'll never know where it is.
And then the year 2020 struck. And during that year, 2020, a video would appear online showing Ezra Miller choking a woman and violently throwing her to the ground. He just straight up attacks her like it's a fun thing to do. Miller would be escorted off the property, and the video would go viral, showing the world a very different side of Miller.
Learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal? Whoa, bro. Fight?
But things would take an even darker turn in 2022. After appearing in the film asking for it, Miller would be arrested in Hawaii for having a physical altercation with patrons in the bar. What the f***? And Miller's bail was paid by the couple that Miller was staying with at a local hostel. However, just 2 days later, that same couple would file a restraining order against Miller, saying that following the incident, Miller threatened the couple by saying, "I will bury you and your slut wife," before stealing the couple's passport and wallet. What the f***, Ezra? Just a few weeks later, Miller would be arrested yet again in Hawaii for throwing a chair that struck a woman in the head at a private party. What the f***, Ezra?
Big Island police have arrested Miller about a dozen times since early March, and they are expected to appear in court this afternoon on charges of disorderly conduct, harassment, and obstructing a highway.
But then, June 8th, 2022, the most disturbing allegation came to light. Parents of an 18-year-old girl accused the actor of grooming their child while meeting this child at a protest at Standing Rock in 2016. when she was a child. Ezra Miller and this child became very close, with Miller flying this child to London on the set of Fantastic Beasts when she was 14 and he was 25. The girl's parents allege that Miller would try to sleep in the same bed as this child and would supply her with marijuana, LSD, and alcohol before forcing the girl to drop out of school. The parents said that when they went to visit their daughter in Vermont, she had bruises on her body and was not in the possession of her own license, car keys, or bank cards. They alleged that Ezra Miller used violence, intimidation, fear, paranoia, and drugs to hold sway over their daughter. The parents asked the court to intervene. However, to date, they have been unable to locate the actor and their daughter. And this is something that Miller seems to be having fun with by posting a series of cryptic Instagram posts before deleting the Instagram account altogether. Like it's just a sick game for Ezra. Following these allegations, it seemed the lid had been opened on the private life of Ezra Miller, with more allegations emerging just a short while later, including a 12-year-old who claimed they were targeted by Miller, and that Miller acted inappropriately with the child, as well as threatening the family while wearing a bulletproof vest and carrying a weapon which Miller would flash at the family. The family was granted a temporary harassment prevention order in June. Then later that month, a Rolling Stone investigator revealed that Miller was living with a 25-year-old woman and her 3 children, ages 1 to 5. The article showed that Miller's house had weapons laying around freely in a house full of children, with the 1-year-old baby at one point putting a loose bullet in her mouth. Ezra Miller was truly a danger, not just to Ezra Miller, but to others, to children. What the fuck, Ezra? Just a week later, another woman would come out with another harassment allegation about Ezra Miller. She said after a consensual encounter, she asked Ezra Miller not to smoke in her apartment, and that simple request made the actor go absolutely insane with anger, and she was so scared that she thought Miller was going to attack her. This poor woman asked Miller to leave several times while walking around the house spreading tobacco all over the place, just trashing it to trash it. She would call the police and Miller would eventually leave. This is exhausting. Seriously, what the fuck?
Hit me like this.
Ezra Miller rose to fame playing characters that were slightly off. Fun, eccentric goofballs that were oh so charming, we thought. And Ezra would achieve international fame by joining the superhero world as the Flash. And Ezra did a great job. However, there seems to be a darkness hidden under the surface of Miller that has only come to light in recent months. With a massive franchise film still in the pipeline, it seems that the studios are beginning to distance themselves from this performer as these horrible, disturbing allegations against Miller are piling up. And of course, innocent before proven guilty, but like, stop acting so fucking guilty, Ezra. Unfortunately, Miller's behavior has come to overshadow a promising career. It's impossible to predict how some of these disturbing situations will turn out, but of course we hope that the alleged victims will end up safe, and that Ezra Miller will get some sort of mental health help that seems to be so desperately needed. In the meantime, Warner Brothers is working on a $200 million tentpole film starring this person, and as of today, it is scheduled for a theatrical release in 2023. Yeah, that's right, a major motion picture starring a fugitive who is putting children in danger. But seriously, if you were the studio, what would you do? Sure, Hollywood has had its fair share of bad boy behavior, but Ezra seems to have taken this to a new level. A horrendous level. A criminal level. A f***ing crazy, child-abusive fugitive is starring in your movie. What do you do? What the f*** indeed? So yeah, I don't know what to think. All I know is that I want to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. So yeah, everyone should kind of give a f*** about what the f*** happened to Ezra Miller because, like, it's like really, like, serious and dangerous. Like, what the f***?
Before we continue with our video, if you love JoBlo and want to support us directly, click the store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our latest collection of fresh new designs in any size you need. It's good stuff, folks. Go get you some.
Hollywood. The evil temptress, where talent often overshadows any sort of character flaw. Balancing your public life with a career in the entertainment industry can be a tricky thing. And as we've all seen with the advent of social media, where a person tweets out something dumb 10 years ago, only to have it brought back up when they have a new movie dropping. But actually, celebrities have seen their careers implode long before the World Wide Web had social media platforms to do stupid stuff on. Think back to the story of Fatty Arbuckle, one of the highest paid silent film stars of the era, whose talent and fame were overshadowed when a woman was assaulted and died at a party hosted by the famed comedian. Arbuckle was acquitted of the crimes, but his career never recovered. This kind of stuff has been happening since the beginning of cinema, and now it's happening to actors in the talkies. But I do think we've never really seen a career implosion like what we witnessed in 2023, when an emerging talent had a spectacular breakout year that was even expected to end with a film that would have seen him nominated and possibly even win an Oscar. But instead, the year ended with that project shelved, potentially never to see the light of day, and a career seemingly cut short when the dark side of his private life was exposed to the whole world. Like, it seemed like this guy was famous for literally 15 minutes before he f***ed it up. So yeah, let's find out what the f*** happened to Johnathan Majors.
Don't tell me I'm a disappointment.
No. Just a little bit easier to kill.
But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Johnathan Majors, we must begin at the beginning of the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, 1989, California. Majors began his life living on an Air Force base with his family, as his father was in the service, before relocating to Texas, where Majors would later say that his father just kind of disappeared, abandoning the family for 17 years. This forced his mother to take care of him and his two siblings. His mother would eventually earn a master's degree to become a pastor. Majors has said that his mother's spirituality and hard work were major influences on his own life. But sometimes, without a male role model in a young man's life, sometimes some people start to act out. And unfortunately, a confused, angry young Johnathan Majors did just that. He was always in some sort of trouble, whether it was fighting in school or getting arrested for shoplifting. Funny enough, it would be fighting in school and getting into trouble that would eventually lead Majors to discover acting. After one of his many fights at his Dallas area school, Johnathan Majors was enrolled in an alternative education program, which would include performing on stage, something Majors chose after being inspired by seeing Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight. So yeah, this amazing superhero villain performance would go on to inspire Johnathan to eventually pump out his own superhero villain performance, in real life and on the screen. So yeah, acting would turn into a passion for young Johnathan as he enrolled in the University of North Carolina School of the Arts before attending the prestigious Yale School of Drama. It would be while attending Yale that Johnathan Majors would land his first big role, playing young Ken Jones in 2007's Gus Van Sant miniseries When We Rise. That same year, Majors would make his big screen debut in an intense, gritty western that's pretty darn A-okay, kinda. It's good, yeah. The Christian Bale starring Hostiles. After another 2 supporting roles in the Matthew McConaughey movie White Boy Rick and the crime drama Out of Blue, Majors would land his major breakout role in the critically acclaimed independent film The Last Black Man in San Francisco in 2019. Despite the film receiving a limited release with a box office take that isn't even worth mentioning, it was the critical acclaim that came from this film that essentially put Johnathan Majors on the radar to the rest of Hollywood. The Last Black Man in San Francisco had strong Oscar buzz coming out of its buzzy Sundance premiere, and although Oscar glory never came for this film, it did secure nearly 80 nominations from various other respected organizations that hand out golden idols, including several Best Supporting Actor nominations for Majors. He would finish out 2019 by appearing in 3 under-the-radar films, including Captive State, Gully, and Jungle Land, before landing a decent-sized role in Spike Lee's joint, The Five Bloods. This would be the first role that Majors got that he didn't have to audition for, as he says that one day he was just told that Spike Lee wanted to meet him. Master filmmaker Spike Lee had been very impressed with the stuff he had seen Majors in and offered him the role on the spot. And The Five Bloods was a very big hit for Netflix, also nabbing Majors, along with his castmates, a nomination for the Screen Actors Guild Awards for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. Later that year, Johnathan Majors would return to TV for the highly anticipated HBO horror series, Lovecraft Country. The series would garner strong reviews, calling it marvelously entertaining. But sadly, it would be cancelled after just one single season, with the studio citing budgetary reasons. Money. Those tentacles must be expansive. The series would go on to receive over 140 nominations, including individual recognition for Majors' leading performance from more respected organizations that hand out golden idols, like the Emmys. He was nominated for that. Critics' Choice got a nomination, and some more Screen Actors Guild nominations. Yippee! By 2021, Majors would start to break out into more mainstream appeal by hosting Saturday Night Live, because that's what you do if you're a celebrity. And he would star in a Netflix western called The Harder They Fall, where yet again he would rack up nominations for his flawless leading performance. But it would be his other released project in 2021 that would begin to lay the seeds of an A-lister on the horizon. Johnathan Majors would appear in a single episode of the Marvel Universe TV Disney Plus series Loki, where he would play He Who Remains and Victor Timely, 2 characters who are variants of the powerful Marvel villain Kang the Conqueror, because multiverse stuff or whatever. So yeah, Marvel was laying the foundation for their next big villain. And in the cynical, angry world of Marvel fanboys, the casting of Johnathan Majors in that role was a rare occurrence where most everybody seemed to be on board with it.
Yes! 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 What's the worst that can happen?
In 2022, we would see Majors appear in the true story, Devotion. That sadly was not a huge hit, kind of overshadowed by Top Gun Maverick, and earned $21.8 million off a $90 million budget. But this showed the type of projects that Majors was interested in. Everybody loves the Marvel paychecks, and the fame that comes with them. But Johnathan Majors' filmography has mostly been about telling Black American history, whether through fictitious stories that highlight those experiences, or through films like Devotion that tell true stories of overlooked heroes. Devotion's actually an incredible film, which probably would have become a classic if it was released in a different time. But I wish Hollywood would make more movies like Devotion. But it would be the year 2023 that would forever alter Johnathan Majors' life. Majors was primed for a huge leap forward in his career. He would kick off the year by appearing in the highly anticipated Creed 3, where he would play the film's antagonist opposite Michael B. Jordan's celebrated Adonis Creed character. So yeah, basically Johnathan Majors was taking on the huge responsibility of becoming a Rocky bad guy. Even though this is a Rocky movie without Rocky, but you know, he had some major shoes to fill. And no, he doesn't play Mr. T's son. Johnathan Majors would actually receive enormous praise for his performance in Creed 3, with critics calling it raw and powerful, showing that he truly is a force to be reckoned with in the ring and on the screen, as an actor, as an athlete, as just an all-around artist. Johnathan Majors' next role was one that had more attention on it than any other project he had ever worked on. The Marvel Cinematic Universe seemed to be in a bit of a rut since Avengers Endgame concluded their first big story arc, as the heroes vanquished their mortal enemy, Thanos, who was one of the greatest movie villains ever put to screen. So there were some giant purple shoes that needed to be filled, but I mean, who could live up to what Josh Brolin was doing with the MCU? So yeah, in the meantime, everybody who cared was wondering who was gonna be the next big baddie. What antagonist will our heroes go up against next? In February 2023, we got our answer when Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania hit theaters, and audiences were finally introduced to Kane the Conqueror, as played by Mr. Johnathan Majors. This kind of wacky, fun, stupid movie would divide fans, as most would find it to be a lackluster entry into a fading franchise. But there was one aspect of the film that seemed to garner unanimous praise: Johnathan Majors. He was absolutely perfect as the new purple bad guy. His performance alone got fans excited about the MCU again, and we almost cared about where it was heading.
I am not a dick!
But everybody was so proud, so excited for Johnathan Majors. He had finally hit the A-list. And you know what? He frickin' deserved it too. The man worked hard and turned in powerhouse performances. He got famous the old-fashioned way with talent. Everything seemed to be looking up for the star. He would reprise his role in Loki Season 2, which had already been filmed, and was awaiting its release on Disney+. And rumor had it, Johnathan Majors could have potentially ended out the year with some solid awards heat, as his film Magazine Dreams had garnered genuine Oscar buzz for Mr. Majors when it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2023. If ever a year belonged to a performer, 2023 was Johnathan Majors' year. He was a superstar.
I am king!
And then, in an instant, Majors' world came crumbling down, as if Thanos had just snapped it all away. On the evening of March 25th, 2023, Johnathan Majors was arrested for a domestic dispute when his girlfriend told police that he had assaulted her, resulting in Majors being charged in several counts of assault and harassment. Johnathan's representative would release a statement saying that Majors had done nothing wrong and was in fact the victim of the assault, and he looked forward to clearing his name. His name, Johnathan Majors. The arrest made national news, and the repercussions were immediate, with the Army pulling recruitment ads that they had shot with the actor, while Marvel remained tight-lipped around what they were going to do, simply saying that Majors would appear in the already completed Loki Season 2. They weren't gonna do another Johnny Depp. Innocent until proven guilty, due process, and all that stuff. They were just gonna wait to see what a trial of his peers and our legal system would decide. By June 21st, there seemed to be a bit of a tide shifting in favor of Johnathan Majors. He was frequently seen arriving to court with new girlfriend Megan Good by his side, along with several pieces of information released by Johnathan Majors' attorney that hinted that he was actually the victim of the assault. A claim that seemed to take further proof when Majors would file a domestic violence complaint against his alleged victim. And for anyone following the case, this would turn into one of those he said, she said kind of things. Nobody was really sure who to believe. And then, on June 29th, 2023, Rolling Stone magazine released a scathing article where several people from Johnathan Majors' past would detail years of erratic and often abusive behavior by the actor. Rolling Stone had conducted a 3-month investigation into the actor, where they spoke with over 40 individuals who knew Majors throughout his life, including romantic partners and fellow students at the Yale School of Drama, all the way through production workers of his film magazine Dreams. All sources wished to remain anonymous out of fear of Johnathan Majors. Through these interviews, Johnathan Majors was painted as a man with a violent streak who was adept at being emotionally, verbally, and even physically abusive, with one of his former girlfriends telling several sources that dating Johnathan Majors was, quote, emotional torture. The story that emerged from the article was one of a performer who was so intense that it made those around him uncomfortable and fearful. But it also showed a man whose private life was filled with unrealistic demands from those he surrounded himself with. A controlling individual that demanded to be in charge of those he was romantically involved with, right down to the food they would eat. Some of these claims seem to have been backed up during the trial, with an audio recording of Majors telling his alleged victim that he was a great man and that he expected her to be like Coretta Scott King or Michelle Obama, because for some reason this silly little actor man thinks he can compare himself to a great civil rights leader and a frickin' president. For his part, Johnathan Majors, through his attorneys, said that the allegations made by Rolling Stone magazine are false, and that he never physically, verbally, or emotionally abused anyone.
Have you ever had issues with domestic abuse?
I've witnessed it, but never participated, you know. I mean, I've been smacked up before, you know, but yeah, never exercised it.
On November 29th, 2023, the trial against Johnathan Majors would begin, and through it, a picture would be painted of Johnathan Majors that was a far cry from the talented actor we had all grown to admire. Video footage would be shown from the night in question showing Johnathan Majors shoving his alleged victim back in the SUV, while also showing footage of Johnathan Majors running away from that same victim as she chased him. And text messages were released where Johnathan Majors discussed wanting to kill himself. This was truly a trial that could have gone either way. It seemed like there was evidence on both sides that could have seen a verdict of not guilty just as easy as guilty. On December 18th, 2023, a jury of his peers found Johnathan Majors guilty of misdemeanor assault in the 3rd degree, while recklessly causing physical injury, as well as harassment in the 2nd degree. The jury did, however, find him not guilty of misdemeanor assault in the 3rd degree, with intent to cause physical injury, and misdemeanor harassment in the 2nd degree. Essentially, the jury believed that Johnathan Majors did not attack his victim, but through reckless behavior caused the injuries she sustained that night. It wouldn't take long before the hammer dropped. Shortly after the verdict against Johnathan Majors was read, Marvel would formally drop Johnathan Majors from their roster. So yeah, I don't know, Kang just ain't gonna be a thing, I guess. While the release of his film magazine Dreams, a film that had many claiming would get Johnathan Majors an Oscar, was put on the back burner indefinitely, with no current plans to release the film. Which I don't know, do y'all agree with that? I mean, lots of other people helped make this movie. It wasn't just Johnathan Majors, so why punish everyone? I don't know. Comment your comment in the comments.
We conquer eternity and the dynasty of kings.
Mr. Majors' sentencing is scheduled for February 6th, 2024, which if you're watching this video on the day it was uploaded, that's like less than a month from now. But most of the legal experts out there are saying that there's pretty much a 0% chance that he will actually do any prison time. So yeah, it is still very unlikely that this actor will end up behind bars. Of course, you never know, especially with today's legal system. Am I right? Or am I right? So, as you know, the character of Kang the Conqueror is expressed as many different people, akin to how Johnathan Majors plays many different people in his personal life. And his worst variant is that of an abuser. Let's just hope that in the future, we are able to see a good, a positive variant of Mr. Johnathan Majors. So yeah, Johnathan Majors started the year 2023 on the top of the frickin' world and ended it a guilty man with no career. On January 8th, 2024, Johnathan Majors would sit down with ABC News for his first public comments in nearly a year. In the interview, Majors maintains that he never put his hands on another woman in his entire life, and calls all claims against him to be completely false. Johnathan claims that his biggest mistake was not being brave enough to end what he called a toxic relationship, and that he wished he had not gotten back in the car that night. For some, the interview came across as a man who still couldn't take responsibility for his own actions, while others claim that Majors was the true victim and eagerly anticipate his comeback. As you know, career implosions are nothing new in Hollywood. Over the past few years, we have seen some of the most prominent names in show business lose everything overnight when their seedy private lives were exposed for the whole world to see. But we really never have witnessed one like this. Johnathan Majors was only just beginning to become a household name, in a time when movie stars don't really exist anymore. He was truly something special that I personally was rooting for, and I know pretty much everybody else was too. We were really excited to see what new projects this guy was gonna bring, what new characters he was going to transform into. Like seriously, it had been a long time since I was excited about a new young actor. He was already being compared to some of the greats. But then, in an instant, that name, which was associated with talent, became forever tainted with violence. Johnathan Majors' guilty verdict may not have been the nail in the coffin, but that Rolling Stone article certainly was the beginning of the end for the actor. It would appear that underneath that talent was a man who needed to control those around him and control the narrative of his public persona. And we've said this many times before, but Hollywood is actually a forgiving place. And oftentimes, talent can triumph over anything. And for Johnathan Majors, only time will tell if audiences will embrace him again, or will his public persona fade away due to the details of his private life that he fought so hard to hide. So if you want to give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Johnathan Majors, you can give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Johnathan Majors, because there's a lesson there. And I guess that lesson is don't fucking hit women.